Welcome back to Velocity Invitational. As you can see, another eclectic group of cars out on track. This is one of our demonstration groups, and this is our pro driver exhibition session, and it involves the likes of Matthew Brabham, grandson of course to the great man himself. And I say that, his father was a pretty great man too, and the Brabhams themselves have got a pretty storied history that includes not just Sir Jack, but David and Matthew and Jeff, and it's just a family that continues to impress. Matthew driving one of David Hobbs's former Indy cars as we take a look at the Ford. But we've got several drivers here this weekend with some very distinctive names that you'll know instantly. One of them, of course, Tony Kanaan, who now is the vice principal of the McLaren IndyCar team, and the former IndyCar champion and Indy 500 winner, definitely settling in nicely, the Brazilian, to what is a really interesting period for McLaren in their history. They celebrated their 60th anniversary last year, and the sort of new era for McLaren has not looked better, both in Formula One and in IndyCar, boasting some really, really talented drivers now. And we've got some of those drivers here this weekend as well, I'm delighted to say. Tony, not only the 2004 IndyCar champion winner, but also the 2013 Indy 500 winner, and the holder of 318 consecutive starts from the Portland Grand Prix back in 2001 all the way through to 2020 at Texas Motor Speedway. And he's still often tempted to come back and do an odd run in the 500, and why not? We've been mentioning Jenson Button, who's had a busy day out there, but not in this particular class. Christian Lundgaard is also here, and Christian Lundgaard at the other end of the scale in terms of experience, and got his first win in Toronto last year. Did Christian, and notched up 3 podium finishes and 2 poles. Christian, top of his game, of course, at IndyCar, just a young guy coming through, but now with Arrow McLaren for 2025. Now, Romain Grosjean is in that big Ford GT that you saw just a moment ago. I've mentioned Tony Kanaan. He's actually driving a JPS Mario Andretti Formula One car, so keep an eye out for that one. I mentioned Christian Lundgaard. Well, he's in the orange McLaren GT. And another youngster, but from North California, Nolan Siegel, another youngster making his name. And there's the Ford. Roma, the Frenchman, at the wheel, current Juncos racing driver. And a bit of a fun weekend for him. I think he's settling nicely into the American way, but he's got that great affability, and I can tell why he enjoys racing in America. He's fun to be with. I think the pressure of Indy is nothing like that of Formula One, and he had a long, good history in Formula One, did several teams, of course, and I don't think we really saw the best of Grosjean at Formula One. And, of course, that big crash while he was racing for Haas in the Far East, and massive incident, and lucky to get away with that. Now, we're looking at Christian Lundgaard, who I just mentioned got his first victory on the streets of Toronto last year, and he'll be racing for the Arrow McLaren team in 2025. Zach Brown is on the board of this event and is a often entry to events like this. He's got a great collection of cars, has Zach Brown. And last time I saw Zach, not here this weekend, but last time I saw him, he was racing a Williams here in California that he owns, a former Alan Jones 1980 F07 which won the world title for Williams and Alan Jones back in 1980. So it's really interesting times at McLaren, and Zach is wont to give his drivers the odd bet. He gave Pato O'Ward a bet last year, and that allowed Pato to drive one of the Formula One cars, and also, more importantly, get a test in a current Formula One car, which he did rather well, I may add. And as we mentioned earlier, just to reiterate, Travis Pastrana will be here tomorrow, the multiple X Games winner and multiple rallycross, motocross, you name it, nitro cross, got his own series now, X Games, done it all. He'll be in action too. Scott Speed, as we mentioned, is here as well, another Formula One man. He's doing the Project Midnight Subaru runs. And if you haven't seen that car yet, you definitely want to get a view of that tomorrow, because that is a cracking car, 670 brake horsepower in a Subaru basic rally car. But I say basic, but that's the shadow of it. Underneath, a lot more. McLaren due to bring their Johnny Rutherford, three-time winning IndyCar. So this is a chance for the drivers. They're also doing an autograph session. There'll be one at 1 p.m. tomorrow, the big drivers. And or 1:15, I think, if I correct myself, a little bit later, but keep an eye on that if you are at the event and you want to get an autograph of some of these top drivers. And it's great to see them in this particular venue, simply because, you know, they're not really working. This is what we call it in England a busman's holiday. In other words, yes, they're racing cars or having fun in cars, but it's not serious. They're not expected to perform to any standard, so it's all about enjoying it. So that means for the fans, they have a little bit more time to hang out and discuss stuff with you. And so you get to see their personalities, which is rare at a regular race weekend. I know, having done it myself and been a pit reporter in Formula One, that it's not an easy job trying to doorstop one of these F1 drivers or IndyCar drivers. They're very professional, but it is a lot of work of a weekend, and the last thing they have time for is extra work, so they tend to hide away and just get on with the job as much as they can. And people forget McLaren's history, not just in IndyCar, but of course Can-Am, Bruce McLaren himself racing to much success. He and Denny Hulme, both Kiwis, and of course Bruce McLaren from New Zealand. That's where McLaren began. Bruce was from there and then moved over to England and started racing and decided to build his own cars with the helps of the likes of Howden Ganley, another Kiwi who came over and also has been to this event. In fact, he came into the commentary booth here, did Howden, and regaled me with his stories. He was Bruce's first ever mechanic at McLaren. And then, of course, the storied days of McLaren in the 80s with Ron Dennis and the success that Prost, Senna, and many others. And Jenson Button, of course, who's here this weekend, raced for McLaren, as did Lewis Hamilton. And now current drivers in Formula One, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, having much success at Formula One level. Both winners this year. And Lando actually moving the needle for McLaren and getting ahead. And the moment they lead going into Austin, the next Formula One race in America in a couple of weeks' time. They come in as the constructors' leaders. And we're going to take that in the last 6 races of the year, 2 of which are in the States. 1 in Vegas and, of course, 1 in Austin. And it'll be interesting to see how Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes and McLaren go for that constructors' title, because it's all up for grabs. The Drivers' Championship, yeah, not so much, but Norris does have a chance of challenging Max Verstappen for the title, and it would be a real shock if McLaren were able to come through and win in that, because I don't think anybody expects that for sure. Or certainly not at the start of the season for sure. So it's Tony Kanaan at the wheel of the 73. And if you ever get a chance to have a quick chat with Tony, he's probably one of the most affable guys in motor racing. Always got time, always joking around, always having fun, and always got a smile on his face. He's exactly what you'd hope when you meet a hero, he to be. And to be fair, Helio Castroneves is very similar, and I think there is just something about the Brazilians and their racing and the way they go about their racing. They love what they do. Earlier today, Tony Kanaan also drove the McLaren Senna. Now, what have we got here? Now that I wasn't expecting, but that could be a Brabham. Could it be a Brabham in a Brabham, I wonder? It's a Lotus, though. Of course, it's the Lotus colours. But I know I was talking about Matt earlier. Chad Reynolds just popped in. Pop in and say hello. Chad?
Hello.
How are you?
Doing well.
Yeah, that's a Lotus. I'm not sure which Lotus it is and why it's out here in this pro exhibition, but it doesn't matter.
I would think it's a Formula 2 car because it looks like a 4-cylinder.
So, Chad, you're in here for the next race coming up, which, of course, is Historic Trans Am. How are you enjoying the event? We've met before, and obviously I know that you enjoy these weekends immensely.
Yes.
What have you been doing this weekend?
We've been working on mostly just historic Trans Am cars and a couple, 3 IMSA cars. So the IMSA cars just finished, and then
Which one were you looking after?
We were looking after the 2 Decon Monzas. One technically we just did a restoration on, and so we're just kind of overseeing it. One we're doing the track support for, an orange one, and then the white yellow orange one we did the restoration on, and then a Greenwood Corvette that unfortunately loves to blister tires, so that's why he ended early on that one. But he was he was out front before he blistered his tires.
Yeah. Well, they had plenty of tele coverage, that's for sure, because we saw them definitely in action. We were wondering what happened. Let's head down to pit lane. Taylor is talking to the man I've been talking about, and that, of course, is the affable Tony Kanaan.